What's up out there? In the last video, I was talking about the woes that I was having this league. It's just for context, let me run through how I've gotten to this point and why I'm here, just in case there's any questions, and then I want to show off where I've some thoughts that I've had and I've put into place. So first and foremost, I've league started Pox's Righteous Fire build in Ancestors League. Then I started a Bone Shatter Slayer build in Affliction League, which then in the middle of that league, I switched over to Bone Shatter Juggernaut and liked that a lot more. In last league, which was Necropolis League, I started off with 3 builds. I got them all into town, or maybe through Act 1 or something like that. I don't remember. I got them all up a little bit into the game. But I started an Exsanguinate Scion, which I ended up completing the campaign first with, and then went into mapping, got, I don't know, into red map somewhere before I gave up on it. But that was a build I was following from somebody else's. And I started my Caustic Arrow Deadeye, which is now the Caustic Arrow Trickster that we've got today. That one got revamped last league also. And then I also started a Bone Shatter Juggernaut. So when this league came along, I did not want to start with someone else's build. I wanted to start rolling my own. I liked the process of coming up with this Caustic Arrow Trickster that I did. I took someone else's build that wasn't even right for what I was doing, but in a lot of things, I learned a lot of things about that build. I got it in from a Pathfinder to a Deadeye to a Trickster, and it's just kind of morphed and changed over time. And that's what I wanted to do this league. My thinking was that I had the bugs worked out of this Caustic Arrow Trickster, and all I had to do is gear it up and we're good to go. The passive tree is good. Passive tree only seems to account for, I don't know, say 30 some percent, maybe a third of everything. You know, you got your gear, you've got, I don't know, all the stats and everything that you get. I don't know, there's a formula for all this somehow, some way. I don't know how to express it. But passive tree is not the be-all, end-all of everything. Some things depend on, there's like a lot of factors in here. But, kind of getting beside myself. I thought this build was good enough to league start. It was not. And what I'm finding out, and as I go through some of these other builds that I'm looking at doing, I need to work and brush up on my early game. Because if you're following somebody's build guide, they're going to say, go grab this gear, here, do this, do that. They've got a lot of that stuff figured out, or they maybe put some little notes in there, or if you've done the build a few times, oh, okay, I just go do this. I'm running into problems that I've never ran into before. Maybe certain skills start weaker than they end up. Maybe you just have to account for different things. And this is beyond build guide. This is I would say probably some of the most basic stuff. What's the first cave? I think it's the third or fourth map you get into in the campaign where all the stuff that comes up and freezes you. That was a problem in one league here a couple leagues ago, and I just ran past it all. But that was a massive problem in this. I kept dying so much to being frozen, and it caused me to stop and try to figure out how to get around that. Other things, you know, you can't just throw crap gear on and run. You got to actually work on some of your gear. So what I'm saying is I'm getting fairly decent at the mid to late game with a good build. Now, obviously, all these are going to be, I'm starting from scratch. I'm not following anybody's guide. I'm not picking skills that I know are popular or anything like that. Maybe I'm using a popular skill, but in a different build or a different ascendancy. I have my own plans for this whole thing, and I say plans, nothing's planned. I'm going to do this skill with this ascendancy. I have some general ideas, but I want to experience things. The way I learn things myself is by doing them and trying them. Well, what happens if I do this? What I don't learn from is when somebody says that won't work. Well, why doesn't it work? It just doesn't work. I don't like that mentality. I have to experience things, because if I can experience it and figure out why it would work or why it doesn't work, if I think it's going to work this way and it works that way, and somebody says it doesn't work that way, then I now know that they were wrong and that it did work that way. If they say it doesn't work that way and I try it and it doesn't work that way, then I can understand why it doesn't work that way. And for me, the why is very important because that allows me to take that and shape it into other situations. You know, like you put a build over here on this side of, like, something I've noticed about the passive tree is it's not as complex as you think it is. Like, there's a lot of weapon centric nodes. So you start taking all that stuff out and you're really only pairing in on certain nodes. Well, why do people take this all the time? Oh, okay. It's because I'm running out of mana all the time and this helps improve that. There's just things like that, just simple examples like that. So that's what I wanted to do with this league, was to league start this stuff. And I figured I've gotten fairly far with a lot of my little Frankenstein builds, if you want to call them that. But one thing that I hadn't considered makes a huge improvement, which now, I mean, it seems kind of obvious. When you start off and when you build your character through, you take your Bone Shatter build or your Righteous Fire or whatever, you get it through the campaign, you start playing along, you get bored, I don't know, a month into the league and you're like, I want to do something else. So you start a new build and you start throwing all the unique gear you have on it because, hey, I got all this starting gear. Why would I start with all this crap gear all over again? That, I think, is what makes the difference. So I've been skipping that early part, like the first couple of acts of all the stuff that sucks. Like you throw on the helmet that gives you all the resistances, you throw on the boots that gives you the speed, that lets you go through all the frozen stuff without being frozen. You know what I mean? Like you throw all that stuff on there. It kind of simplifies all this process. You only have to do the starting process one time and then all the rest of it's easy. So what I'm looking at doing here is basically, by the time it's all said and done, is going through all of these characters through the hardest part of the game. And it's kind of got me a different perspective on it. So what you see on the screen right now, I actually sat down the other day and I started a build. You can tell what they're for. A duelist champion, duelist gladiator. I just kind of did these so they alphabetized correctly. My trickster is out of alphabetical order because I didn't do the naming convention until after I started doing this. And the same thing for settled for a warden. That should actually be somewhere different as well. But she kind of fell right where she needed to anyway. But I've got a build for each ascendancy. Whether I do anything with them or not, I don't know. I've just kind of started tinkering with them. So I've got this champion build. Let's go take a look at him. Let's see what he's doing. I don't even remember what I'm doing. What I'm kind of doing, or what I have been doing, is going in here. He's running Splitting Steel. So basically, I think there's Splitting Steel champion. I think that's one somebody uses. The reason I selected this is because it's got Impale. So champion looks like it's got a lot of Impale. I wanted to tinker around with Impale a couple of leagues ago, or a league back or so. Wanted to tinker around with it, and I don't know, I just didn't really get very far with it. It's always been something I've used as like just the green Impale gem that you throw on Bone Shatter. So like that's about all I've ever used it for. So I wanted to try that out with this one, and I have tried, what is there, Splitting Steel, and I don't know, there's 2 or 3 different ones. I tried the second one. I didn't really care for it. Oh, they were frozen again. So I did figure out a way around that. Why am I getting frozen up here? That's kind of odd. But you can go away. So yeah, there's a lot of fights like this that are slow and they're not going anywhere, and they're not meant to. This is my, I hit that too much. This is basically my learning experience. That's the whole point of doing any of this, is to try to learn how builds are put together and what they do, why they work the way they do, that kind of thing. Yeah, this is slow. This is extraordinarily slow. Oh, this guy's freezing me. Okay. It is what it is. I'm not necessarily trying to rush through this. I don't want to just do this the whole time, but when you're trying to commit to, what is it, 16 different builds or some crazy thing, there's a lot of builds here. That's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 18 different builds, I guess. That's a lot of builds, you know. 3, and there's 6 classes, 3 builds each. That's a lot. So, Marauder the Chieftain, what do we got going on with him? I think I started running Fireball. I ran into some issues with him He is currently running Volcanic Fissure. This looked cool. I actually worked on this for a little bit. He's a little slower. He's a little slow. But I kind of like the skill. I kind of dig that. And one of the things that I'm looking for is to find skills that I actually like and that I would actually play. That's part of this whole thing, is to try some of this stuff out. Like, there's a lot of skills that I've never tried. And Toxic Rain's a good example. You keep hearing about how awesome Toxic Rain is. Toxic Rain's this great skill. I hate it. I hate having to launch something up and wait for it to come down. I hate it. I don't like it. I like it with Caustic Arrow because I can shoot Caustic Arrow out and then come back, but I don't like the other. What are we doing with the Warden here? So I want to try different skills. Part of the process is to try the different ascendancies. I want to see how the ascendancies work, feel how they go together. I want to try the different skills, see what skills do what, just tinkering around with stuff, seeing how it works. What's she got on here? Frostblades. So this is a Frostblades Warden. And we have Prismatic Tinctures on here. I wasn't sure. I thought Tinctures, it says the Warden's the one that can use it, but like I thought you had to actually go into the Ascendancy before you could use it. So I was kind of surprised I could just throw a Tincture on and go. But like I've kind of got this build a little bit going on. Like, I don't know. It's not very good. It's definitely got a long ways to go. But this is what I wanted to spend my league doing. I guess I can. This is what I wanted to spend my league doing, is just trying out different builds, seeing what they could do. Let's see, we did the Ranger. I think that's the only other one I've got started. Let's see here. So Trickster, we are in. I'll go real quick. We got a little bit of time. I want to go over the Trickster real quick. I did make some changes. You guys had some suggestions on here as usual. I had that Caustic Arrow of Poisoning. I switched it back to regular Caustic Arrow. I wasn't real happy with that Caustic Arrow of Poisoning. I think I need to build, well, when I say I think, I know. I need to make the build around Poisoning, and the build that I have is around Caustic Arrow, and I wasn't terribly happy with it. It's something, what I'm thinking with Caustic Arrow of Poison is that I need to get this build set up first and get this running and get it up to speed and ready to go. Then I can worry about Caustic Arrow of Poisoning, because it's going to take some tweaking of the passive tree and maybe some other gear and stuff like that need to be a little different. I don't want to mess with that right now because I've got enough other problems going on. So let's see, not that. I did get a couple of the maps done, so that's taken care of. A little bit of a fight, but I actually got those done. And basically the build that I had the other day is the same build that I have today, except I also got this Eater Implicit with 15% increased attack damage. So got a little bit of attack damage. This is an attack skill. I verified that, so it's on there. On the passive tree side of things, let's see. I had somewhere is the poison stuff. And maybe it was this Fatal Toxins. Yeah, I think it was this Fatal Toxins. So I had this, I backed out of it. I had these two nodes here on Hunter's Gambit. I backed out of those and switched back over to bow damage. Damage over time with bow skills. So basically I just refunded out, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 5, maybe 6 points. And I remembered to finally come down here and pick up Written in Blood. I need to come over here to Growth and Decay. That gives me the last over time stuff. I was going to come over here to Heart of Darkness, increased chaos damage and stuff like that. This is all just increased chaos damage. Somebody mentioned that damage over time would be better. And I got to looking around. If you come down here, there is Avatar of the Hunt. Is this the one? Yes. So you've got 30% increased damage with bows, some evasion, some movement speed, and 30% increased damage over time with bow skills. So that sounds really cool. And we also get damage over time, and damage over time. So at roughly the same cost as going over there. That's like 8 nodes, 8 nodes. I think when I looked at POB, the 8 nodes was coming from here around this way. I think I'm going to come back through here, get Heart of Oak because that's increased life, some life regen and stuff like that. That's going to be very helpful, a little bit of extra life. I had this on the build at one point, but when I switched over to more energy shield stuff, I went for the energy shield route, which we could also maybe come over to Primal Spirit. I think I'd rather go Heart of Oak and get some life built up. Then we can come through Finesse, get some accuracy, dexterity, attack speed, stuff like that. And that kind of positions us for taking maybe one with, I don't want one with nature. Could go with Quick Step, get some spell suppression, come over here to intuition or something like that. Like that just makes some options. And I've picked up, let's see, I took out Circle of Life. I didn't really need that all that much. I took that one out. And I've got some other on-hit stuff for, maybe it's on kill. Attack leached his life, attack leached his mana, life on kill. So a little bit in there, because I was having some mana issues, but I am running, we should be running Clarity. I am running Clarity. That seems to solve all that for the most part. And if I could get some more reservation efficiency, I could either run Haste or Grace. I think I would like to run Haste, but when I turn this thing on, it pretty much tanks all my mana, which one thing that I could do if I could get a 5 socket or a 5 link is life tap Caustic Arrow. I think that's what I did last league was life tap that so that I could keep firing it off. In fact, I think I was using Ensnaring Arrow, and I guess I was running all these because I've got this one set up the way it was. And Toxic Rain, I don't remember. I might have life tapped a few things, but Ensnaring Arrow I don't believe was, because, or maybe I had Flame Dash somewhere else. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at my thing. But what I find fascinating is when you try to actually make your own character, you find out how hard it is to really make a build. And not just a build that can survive and get stuff, like starting off in the early game and getting through that, just even before even before the ascendancy part comes in line, even before like the skill comes in line, like there's some things that you have to really take into consideration. And one other thing, jumping thoughts here, one other thing that I've started to do is I've started to keep certain gems as they drop on the floor so I don't have to worry about buying them. My currency situation is slightly improving. It's not as bad as it was. It's still not great, but it's slightly improving. And one other thing that I've been doing is grabbing all these low-level amulets and rings, maybe some belts, and then even some of this gear. This is all low-level garbage. It's rares, but as I play through one character, I've been grabbing stuff and throwing it in here because it might be good for a different character. So I've started hanging on to some low-level like helmets and armor and stuff like that. I've just started grabbing stuff. This is nothing good. Some of this is a little higher because I start grabbing some stuff for this character as well, or potentially it's going to get kind of messy if I keep grabbing stuff with this one. But I've wanted to start grabbing some of the low-level rares that I find, weapons, and all that stuff, especially when they have multiple sockets that are already linked, because I don't have a way of adding sockets right now. Actually, I can. I can do some sockets, some linking, and the chromes aren't so much of a problem. It's the jewelers and the orbs of fusings that are really hard, especially the alchemies. Those are tough. I haven't gotten very many of those, but that's kind of the strategy that I'm taking. I figured I would, when I rolled out all those builds the other day and started looking at it and I started thinking about it, start playing them, I'm like, you know what? I could just go back and forth on these, keep pushing this build forward. This is in the end game. I can keep pushing this one forward as I go, but then keep tinkering in with those other builds here and there. Just try them out, see how far I can get them. They can be regret orbed off. You know, there's enough to redo some things here and there. You can buy off with currency or whatever. Like there's things that can be done to respec and try different builds out. Some of those are so early I could delete them and restart them. That's not a big deal either. But I think this is the way to do it. And then with all those builds sitting there, if I start grabbing all the different gear and gems that I run across that are unique, like I don't want 20 copies of the same gem, but as I grab all this different stuff, I'm actually compiling for this league and what I'm trying to accomplish. I think it's a good plan. I've got all the builds set up and ready to go. Yeah, I don't know what they're all going to do yet, but they're all there. I can start throwing skill gems on them. I've got gear I can throw on them. I can just go sift through that pile, see what's in there. I can start equipping things. It's kind of shortcutting that early game experience, but like some of the flasks, normally I would just delete flasks, and I don't care. I usually just throw flasks on and go. But I found that certain flasks that take away chill and freeze are good to just hang on to. And there's some that you can equip at like level 2, 3, 4, something like that. So I'm just going to start saving those. And as I work through all these, take some notes, mental notes, things like that, I'm kind of getting a picture of how I should be building these characters up. And I kind of like to just start doing my own builds going forward. I'm kind of done with following somebody else's stuff, because even if we follow everybody else's stuff to the T, you almost have to watch them play it for a while and understand how they run it constantly. Because when you start playing it, it just kind of feels different. And maybe you don't like something, maybe, I don't know, the way they've got their skills laid out, maybe you change something here and there. And next thing you know, it's not their build anymore, it's yours. So I kind of want to just start with that and see where I can go with my own builds. And I totally do not expect them to be very good for this league. And I expect to be... Last league, I started 3 characters in the campaign, and I hated it. I hated being in the campaign for that long because I was in a hurry to go in. I've kind of got my mindset toned down on being in the end game constantly and more focused on being at the beginning of it. So, like I say, I'm going to keep pushing this character into the end game for sure, but I also want to stay focused on working on all these other builds and seeing where they go and just seeing how that goes. If I light off with one and it goes and I really enjoy it and it goes very smoothly, I'm going to be working, I'm going to drop everything else and focus on that build until it's in the end game and pushing forward, which I'm assuming some of these slam builds are going to be there. By the way, I would also add, I forgot to mention on that one, retaliation is awesome. I am really digging that retaliation skill. It's a little wonky to get going because I don't always see the thing light up, or it might light up in the lower right before you can actually see it on your character. But and sometimes you got to tap the button a couple times to get it to go off. But I'm liking that. I like that concept. So I'm looking forward to playing that a lot more. Anyway, I have rambled on for a while now. That's kind of where I've gotten to with this whole thing, and hopefully that makes some sense. And as usual, if you got any suggestions, keep them coming. And hopefully I get all of these, whatever ascendancies I work on, hopefully they all end up, whatever ones I get, 2, 3, 5, 16 of them, whatever it is, hopefully they all end up in the mapping section. And then maybe at the end of the league, we'll look at them and I'll tell you which ones I really liked and which ones I didn't like, or, I'm going to try to take notes on these, this is cool, this is not cool, I didn't like this, did like that. I don't know. Anyway, that will do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.